Hi, my name is Kelly McCarthy. I am the chairman of the NSCA Business and Leadership Conference Committee. And we spend a lot of time and effort choosing speakers very carefully to help address the pain points of our members in the association. The company I represent is Genesis Integration. I am the chairman of that company up in Canada. And with me is Kindra Hall.
Hi, I'm Kindra Hall, and I was one of the speakers that was chosen. But my role really is as a strategic and professional storyteller. So I had the great opportunity and pleasure to be here to help the members who are here in attendance, who are very good at what they do, become even better at communicating how good they are at what they do with stories.
So I've found over the years, one of the things that Kendra brought up that was very important was the fact that often the owner or leader of the company, the founder, is the best storyteller, and or the best salesperson. And the reason that they're the best salesperson is because they're the best storyteller. And that really hit a note with me, because over the years, it's not about features or benefits or any of the technical information of the things that we do in a very technical business. It's about the stories we tell. It's about the experiences we have with other clients. It's about the experiences we have with our staff. It's about the things that actually reach out and touch people in a way that they understand. And that's something that Kendra's very, very good at, is putting that piece together, the storytelling piece as part of a sales process. And that's something that was very appealing to me. So.
Well, and I know you said, right, as we came in here, that you're like, hey, that's all I do is tell stories. And I think what happens for me often when I have the opportunity to speak for a group and then even converse with people afterwards is one of two things happen. Either they say, I realize I'm the storyteller, that's what makes me good. Or they say, I didn't even think that stories were something I should be using. And I think that's the biggest takeaway that I hope people have when they're sitting there in that room. And I know you weren't able to attend the session, or maybe you were and you're watching this again, is that all of us, no matter if you're the founder, no matter if you're the admin, no matter if you're brand new or you've been there from the beginning, all of us have stories within us, and they're all just they're sitting there just waiting to be told. And the most important thing is to recognize that value of the story, that the story is actually what people say yes to. The story is what gets the idea across the finish line. And if you can just trust that the stories are there, go looking for them and then tell them, everybody wins.
Well, I found it very interesting to hear that there's actually, a scientific structure to putting a story together. And that was really, really important, because a lot of what we do when we first get into the business is we sell things. Well, selling isn't scientific, but in fact it is scientific, right? There are the Sandler methods and the different methods of selling that are very scientific in their approach. So storytelling for me was the same thing. It was like I was just telling a story because I lived it and I experienced it, so it was very easy to convey. But the fact is that there is a very technical way of putting a story together, and I found that very interesting to listen to, because it's going to help me to actually develop other stories, and I think that was really important.
Well, and I'm glad to hear you say that, because I think the second really important thing is to be really intentional about telling your stories and about how you put them together. The one thing that I do bring up on stage is this story formula, and where many stories go wrong is we just start with the thing that happened, or like, oh, we worked with this client and now they're doing this, and this, and if you think about that for a minute, that's why we can watch the news every night and not be bawling our eyes out, because we hear the thing that happens. We hear about the fire or the robbery or the flooding or whatever it is, but we don't know anything about the people involved in that story. We don't know who they were, or we don't have the opportunity to care about them. And so the same is true as you're putting stories together for sales and business, is why should the person care about that story, and start there. It's a very important element of putting a story together.
Well, we're in our business. We're we're very engineering centric. We're very technical in our business, and it's interesting because I always found that from the engineering standpoint, when I got the application, that's when I finally understood what the product did.
Ah.
I heard how somebody else actually used it in an example, in an application, and I think this is very similar. Our customers often relate when we tell them the stories of success that we've had with other people, particularly if there's a personal element involved with it, and often failure is part of that story, right? And recovery, and because we all fail and we all recover, and those stories are important for the client to hear, right?
Well, and I think that's where, in the end, the client buys the story you tell them. So whether it is a story of another time that that something failed, or that another client tried something and it didn't work, it's the story that really makes us say yes. And so the decision to tell them is a really important one.
It's funny because you were talking about founders often tell the story of how they started their company, and I always get laughed at a lot around here because when I started in this business, I had a blue mohawk. Like, that's how I got into it.
Oh, nice. See, now I want to know more about that right away. I'm like, ooh, tell me more.
So the story is that I played in a band, obviously, in a fairly edgy band, but I was the guy in the back of the rack with the soldering iron fixing things while everybody else was over there drinking beer. And this became my passion, not so much the music, right? And this is what got me into the business. And that's why, that story is just, it's just my life, but other people think it's a wonderful story. It's an interesting story, right?
Well, see, and you just said it right there. You're like, that's just part of my life.
Exactly.
Like, why would I, but I don't know about you, but I was like, wait, what? I had a conversation earlier with one of the board members, and she told us the story of her being born, and she didn't say that I could tell it here, so I'm not going to, but it was crazy. And it's one of those things that all of a sudden I'm like, if you can survive that, like, who is this woman? And she was just saying it very nonchalantly, and we often don't recognize the things that will make people stop and say, tell me more, because it's just life to us. So that was, I want to see it, now I just want to know more about your blue mohawk. I can see it almost, I can picture it.
I haven't seen it for a lot of years, so.
Yeah.
The other piece that I thought was really important was the fact that, we all fail. And one of the greatest stories that we had very early on was a massive failure we had, and how we went back when we didn't have the resources and didn't have the money to go back and completely reinstall something, right? And when we tell that story to other customers, and it didn't cost that customer a nickel to do that, when we tell that to other people, it gives them a certain confidence that if there's a problem, they know we will be there, right?
Yeah.
Not because I told them we'll be there, but because I've told them a story of how we did it with someone else.
Exactly. And I think that two things about stories of failures. It shows right there that we learn our best lessons the hard way, usually.
Always.
And so when you're trying to say to somebody, we'll do the right thing, you can tell them the story of a time that you did the right thing, and it means so much more. And then secondly, and maybe more on a personal note, is that when you're in the middle of a failure, and you're like, and it's a dark day, to just say to yourself, this is going to be a story. Like, I will have a story here. On the other side of this, if nothing else, I have a story. And I think, I don't know, as a storyteller, that is something that I really do hold on to. Like, I mean, on a very small scale, like think about flight cancellations. I don't even want to say that right now because we all have to fly at some point. But yeah, when you're in the middle of it, it's a mess. But on the other end is a great story.
Yeah, I agree. That's the fact is that we lose track of that opportunity to retain the story.
Yep, and to use it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it was so wonderful to be here at the event and to be here with you, Kelly. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for coming. I think that you encapsulated everything that in our business that's very technical and very engineering. It is these soft skills that are what are going to get us closer to our customers. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Bye.